Is everybody paying attention? Like for real. Okay? Citrus. Seems pretty straightforward, right? How do you guys eat citrus? For most people, you just peel the skin off, throw the whole thing in your mouth, like little clementine, stuff like that. Or we just kind of cut it into sections and then we bite it off and we act like it's a mouth guard and we're all like, yeah, yeah, like choking on it, right? Okay? No more. Not even close. Alright? That's not, it's so far from how you're supposed to eat it, it's not even funny. Okay, we saw the tomatoes, right? We've seen procedures about every single thing so far. This is one of those things that is a cardinal rule. You have to break down citrus a certain way. Have to. Okay? It's the way I'm going to show you. Okay? We're going to supreme it. It is spelled S-U-P-R-E-M-E. It's spelled like supreme, but it is supreme. If you're ever like, hey, will you supreme me some oranges? I'm going to be like, no. In fact, I'm just going to throw one at you. Okay? It is supreme. Now, this is what?
Grapefruit.
Do we know what kind? Ah!
Ruby red.
What?
Red.
Red.
Ruby red.
What do we think about ruby red? It's actually not the brightest grapefruit. This is a Texas Rio Star grapefruit. It's the largest, juiciest, and most red. So when people say, I want ruby red, you're like, actually, you want Rio Star. Okay? This, Texas grown and raised, obviously super important. Where do we think it grows?
Texas.
Rio Grande Valley.
Down by the Rio Grande. Just left. Okay? Now, when we have citrus, it comes in all kinds of sizes, right? If you guys, does anybody know what a pomelo is?
Yep.
Okay, a pomelo is a grapefruit that's like the size of a basketball, but the fruit is still like this size, in the middle of rind that's like this thick, okay? Huge, right? Yuzu, Asian citrus, Buddha's hand is a very, very random citrus, which we don't need to get into. But citrus primarily looks like this. Now, as a tidbit, how many sections are in a citrus?
8.
No idea, right? Okay, I never knew until somebody asked me, and I was like, I don't know, they're all different, aren't they? No, 10. 10 is the answer. Every citrus should have 10 segments. Now, that doesn't mean they're 10 beautiful segments. Sometimes you get that little Franken segment, or like the one that's like anorexic, next to the one that's like super gigantic. But it should have 10 segments. Okay? Why is that important? When someone's like, hey, I need 80 Supremes, and you just grab like 1,000 oranges because you have no idea. You should probably just grab 8 or 9 oranges, right? Just a ballpark. Okay? Now, before we get started, right, what we need to do is cut it flat. Right? And the idea is to cut it to where we can see the fruit. Right? If we can't see the fruit, what comes next is going to be very difficult. Do you see how it's flat?
Yes, chef.
Okay? When you guys do this, it's going to be bad. You're going to start seeing like all these sloped houses and all kinds of like waves and stuff. Try and cut it flat. This is a really great way to know that you're doing it one way or another. Okay? It helps, I promise. Alright? Take this, set it aside. Alright, we can use that for all kinds of stuff. This is great for infusing flavor. This is great if I want to make grapefruit marmalade. This is great if I want to candy strips. Okay, we can use every piece of it. Alright? Now we need to get all of this pith, rind, and skin off. Okay? The skin is what's colored. The pith is all this white stuff. The pith is what is super, super bitter. Okay, that's where the bitterness really comes in. It's in the white part. Okay? Now, depending on how you cook it, it can actually end up very buttery and delicious, but you have to cook it a very particular way, and it takes a very long time. So usually we just cut it off. Alright? Now, when we cut, what shape is the inside of this?
Round.
So how should it look when I'm done?
Round.
Round. Okay, not square, not ornate, round. Okay, not like Tetris. Okay, it should be round. So, if we can see the skin, we put our knife in, and we just cut right off. Now, the less skin on the peel, the better. Right? But I still want to cut skin. If I have a little bit down here, I need to come through and trim that off. Okay? I want to see skin through the entire thing, right? And by skin, I mean flesh. My bad. I want to see flesh through the entire thing. Does everybody see?
Yes, chef.
Is it still mostly round? So far. After the first one, the rest of it's ridiculously easy. Guess where I'm going to cut? On the flesh. I'm going to stay with the flesh all the way around. Slide that aside. Okay? Right? Cut with the flesh. My knife right there. Just like that. I can see where I'm supposed to cut. Very easy at this point. Alright? So we come through, we take the skin off. Now, students, I need you to really listen to what's about to come next. Okay? The bottom side looks nice because it's actually the top, but when you flip it over, all of this pith has to come off of there. It has to come off of there, right? I worked at a place once where the comey, the prep cook, didn't peel it off right, or like really at all. He was just like, oh, I'll supreme it. The chef went back, peeled it all off, and made him eat it. He was like, this is your dinner. Not because he's gonna actually eat anything or because it tastes terrible, but it's the point. Like, do you want to eat just this? Then don't put it on there, okay? So what I like to do is I like to hold it using the butt of my knife, which is the sharpest part, just come through, cut it right off of there. Okay, and you see we're exposing brighter and brighter cuts of fruit as we go, correct?
Yes, sir.
We know the old saying, the darker the berry, the sweeter the juice, right? Okay, now usually it has an odd connotation, but what we're trying to do here is expose just the flesh, right? We don't want any skin, we don't want any pith whatsoever. Now, my knife is comically large for this task, right? It's gigantic. Even when I do it with my really big knife, people are like, oh, okay? But use a sharp knife, that's what's important, okay? So far, we have something already much more improved over what you normally eat, right? Usually we just peel the flesh off, it's all white and stuff, we're like, and we just throw it in there. Okay, and we're like, delicious. Not nearly as delicious as it could be. Alright? This we don't really want. Okay, but if we wanted to like infuse it for cocktails or whatever, that's great. Save this, again, we can use it for something, especially as pastry. Right? We can use the rind and the skin, especially if we want to candy it, make marmalade, stuff like that. Okay? This is how you make decorative little swirls on top of cakes and pies. Alright? Now for this, there's a couple ways to do it. Alright? My preferred method is cut in, right next to where that segment line is. Okay? It's also a good idea to do this over a container because it's going to bleed when you cut it, just like we would, except its blood is our juice. Right? So cut straight down, take this, cut straight down, out comes just a segment of grapefruit. Okay? You see how much waste there is? Not much. Okay? Again, get real close. Right? Now, this is the way I prefer to do it. There is a better way, depending on who you ask, okay? They cut into the fruit, right? They cut across, and then they go out, right? And the reason they do that is they say they keep more of the flesh because it's ripping off of the white pith. Okay? But when you start ripping it off the pith, a lot of times you take the pith with it. Plus, you see how hard it is to work with my fruit now? It's starting to fall apart, and I still have pith on there. Okay? This really determines, like, what your chef wants. Okay? Whatever your chef wants, go with. For me, this is more than enough. Alright, when we have these little half segments, see how much you can take off? And then we'll keep going. Now grapefruit's easy because the segments are gigantic. What do we do with the body? Squeeze it. This is your fresh squeezed orange juice. This is your fresh cocktail, whatever, right? Send this to the bar, trade them for all of your small knife work, and be like, look, I'll give you all the juice from all of my citrus, whatever you want with it, but you're going to cut my knives today, right? Just like that. Okay? This we're good. This liquid we'll keep because we'll store these in here. Now, we're still not done though. Okay? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So, monster grapefruit. Okay? Usually it's 10. 12's okay. We need to clean it. Right? I don't want any little seeds. I don't want any pith whatsoever. I've got to get in there and clean all of this stuff out of there. Right? Hopefully while leaving it intact. But especially here at the ends, right, we got to clean that up. Now, when you properly supreme, and this grapefruit's kind of falling apart like grapefruits do, it'll make more sense with the orange. When you properly supreme, it should also be clean down here. So where it's all frayed, cut it nice and straight. Okay, this is what separates normal cooks from great cooks. When I tell you, hey, I need supremes for that plate of dessert, and they all look beautiful, right, nice flat edges, For most people, they don't even notice it. But you know what they notice? Clean. Right? They're not like, oh, somebody took the time to cut these. It's amazing. But they notice that it is clean, right? Like this one stands out quite a bit. Just because of this. All we have to do is come through with our knife, cut it off. Good to go. Okay, what do we do with all this trim? Again, juice it, put it in here for candy or marmalade, whatever. Okay? But do we see how big the difference is from what we normally eat? Now, how many of us are there? About 20-ish? Please, take half a Supreme and taste the difference between just the flesh and the entire thing. And even the grapefruit will taste pretty good.
Oh, there it is.
Can I get in there?
Now, some of you are like, Chef, I hate grapefruit. But when it's just the flesh, it's not nearly as bitter as when you eat it all together.
Is it the bitter?
I was like, what?
Everybody get one? Everybody good? Does everybody want more? Now, second rule, never ever eat off your cutting boards. You can eat off my cutting board. But what I always see is this. Students start Supreming it and then they're like, and they just eat off their board. Okay, one, why should you never eat over your board? Because you're going to be like drooling and getting stuff all over your board and super delicious. Second of all, I told you I wanted Supremes. I didn't tell you I wanted some Supremes.
Right.
I want everything you're making. Are you here to cook for yourself?
No.
No. No. No. Okay? Do not eat off your cutting board, ever. All this, right? See all this juice we're pulling up? Can I save it?
Yes.
Yes.
If you have a clean cutting board, absolutely you can save it. Can I supreme different citruses at the same time?
No.
Why?
Because the different
Flavor.
taste will get on each.
I want a lemon flavored orange.
I say that's a judgment call. We don't have to worry about safety or sanitation with this, right? They're all ready to eat foods at this point. Okay, so I can do ready to eat citrus, no big. But if I don't want my orange to be all lemony, then I won't. Okay? At the very least, wipe it down. Right? So, at the very least, wipe it down. Any questions over that? Alright, let's see it again, right? With an orange. A navel orange. Okay? Straight. Exposing the fruit. Save it. Okay? Pick the side that you like. It's very young. Okay, it's going to be a little more bitter than it should be. And we go around.
You can't tell until you peel it if it's like aged or whatever.
Well, I mean, I could tell because it was green that it was young, but like it smells really young.
By young, you mean fresher or smoke?
Not just like smell. You see, well, it smells good, but you see how it smells like a green banana?
Right.
So
okay.
it's young in the way a green banana is young.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so we take this off. The orange will be a whole different ball game because you guys know oranges, right? You know them, you love them, you eat them. But we've always eaten them a certain way until today. The orange, hopefully, will really capture your imagination. Alright, so.
Chef, does it have a lot of nutrients, vitamins, and stuff in it?
It has some. It does have some. Most of the vitamins are in the juice. Yeah.
And when you're supreming it, you don't look for a certain size as long as it looks nice. Right?
Ideally we want them all the same size, but it is a completely organic thing, right? So I don't want one Supreme that's 3 times the size of another one. I could just cut that big one into thirds. That way it looks the same. But typically we just kind of go with what we got. That's when you start getting to like really, really, really fine details, right? If I'm making an orange frangipane tart, which you'll understand much later, I want them all to be the same size so they cook and look evenly. That way when I glaze it, it's flat, right? It's just gorgeous. Otherwise I'll have one big one and you'll be like, oh, so close, right? Even though you're like, oh, it's delicious, you're still like, room for improvement. Okay? It's like, I was talking to Chef Mobley this morning, because you know we did all the Apple stuff for the Constitution Day yesterday, which I appreciate again. But I was like, yeah, it's funny how no one ever just says thank you around here for like the stuff that we do, right? And he's like, yeah, that's true, especially the people who ask for it. So then the F2 kids made they call it a Mexican breakfast, but it's not really. And I went in there and I got some and I was like, oh, so you guys make these salsas? Like, yeah, we made all the salsas and we made our, especially that pico, what do you think? First words out of my mouth, why didn't you peel the tomatoes? First words, right? Always room for improvement. Pico de gallo, does it taste any better? Yes, without the skins it tastes better, but does it taste bad with the skins? No. But always room for improvement, okay? So, do we see the color on this?
Yes.
Nice, right? Way different than what we're used to. And this is on a young one. When they're really ready, like mature, they kind of glisten, right? It looks like a little jewel, right? So we gotta get the seed out, okay? And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all right? So sometimes we get more than 10. I guess we're at like 12-ish, okay? But 10 is like your base number. So please taste the orange supreme. You can eat off my cutting board, it's fine. Now hopefully this will be a whole different ball game. I haven't added any sugar or syrup or anything to it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Big difference?
Yes.
Some of you are still not convinced.
Juicy.
Some of you are still not convinced. I guess I can't change that. But I promise you, it's a huge difference from eating it normal. How about this? Will you grab me another orange? You can just toss it. First of all, how about the appearance?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? More soft, absolutely. Okay, just the appearance alone though, totally worth it. Plus you walk in the kitchen and you see this.
Yeah, that's not very attractive. Right.
Losing. Like losing all
Oh, there you go. That works. Not.
There you go, thanks for ordering the apple orange dessert.
Yeah. No.
Not so cool, right? No, but when we have a whole bunch of these and they're really lined up beautiful, makes a huge, huge, huge difference, I promise you. Okay? So what happens when we get down to lemons and limes? Same thing. Okay, it's always the same, it just gets smaller and smaller. Always save that juice, it's very, very useful.
Can you bring any, like, melon or anything?
A supreme has to do with segments. I can cut a melon into wedges, and it will look the same, but it's not technically supreming. Because supreming is to remove it from its already segmented shape. Does that make sense? Okay. Does everybody understand that? I can cut it into wedges and make it look the same, but it's not supreming. Right? Alright, so, lemon, same thing. Notice how much thinner the skin is? Right? We get way more flesh on this. Again, I didn't cut deep enough, so cut until you can actually see the flesh, because I don't want any of this. Right? Now, where do you usually see lemons? Water or tea. Okay? You see them for like tea service, and someone just cuts it and they throw it on there, and half the time it still has the stamp that says Sunkist on it.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Okay? You're a professional. So, when we talk about doing it for tea, alright, I've got one. Will you hand me another one? When we talk about doing it for tea, because you're a professional, you can toss it. Because you're a professional, you're going to come through and you're actually going to cut in between the segments, which is another great reason that I cut it to where I can see it, right? That little bit of skin, peel that off. And now, we come through and we cut it into its appropriate size. Flip it on its side, get rid of those seeds, cut it nice and flat. The extra 1 second of work per segment, night and day difference. Okay, this is what separates a place that you're going to charge for a hot cup of water and a place where you're like, yeah, here you go. Right? With all this nub on there, with all that skin on there, it hasn't been washed or anything, it's still got the stamp on it. how hard is it, right? Not hard at all. Okay, so slide this aside. But supreming still the same. Now this has a really gorgeous color. When we supreme this, you'll see a huge difference, even just from this. Okay, so.
That one that you did with the segments.
I'm sorry?
What did you call it? Right, it starts with an F. What do you call this when you're slicing it into the segments, the sections? For tag?
I have no idea.
Were you cutting it along the segments to kind of into those wedges?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
No, okay.
Making sure I get it right.
No, I don't know the term. I've always just called it cut. Just cut it. Okay? So, same rules still apply. We're going to get all this pith off here.
It looks totally different from looking on their own.
Okay? Now, with something small, I always recommend if you use my technique, hook yourself up. Make a cut here, and then instantly go to the one right next to it. And I'll show you why in a second. Okay? Bring it in. Okay? So I cut the last one first, and then I go the other way. Okay, and I'll show you why in just a second. Especially with a lemon or anything with seeds, it's going to start falling apart very quickly. Because the seed is attached to the core. You start pulling the seed out, you start ripping the core. Right? So if I have to try and cut a whole supreme at the very end, it's going to be tricky. But if I pre-cut it, right, suddenly all I have to do is make one easy little slice, and I'm already out. Okay, so hold it together. Good to go. Alright, now you see how this is still dripping? Always just like let it hang out, come back and press it periodically because it continues to bleed. Right? Now, all these seeds, we gotta get them out, correct? But look at this color. Right? On a white cutting board, not very impressive, but when I put it on something blue, it kind of glows. It's very iridescent that way. We can see the individual fibers just pregnant with juice and flavor, right? You guys don't like when I say the word pregnant?
I enjoy those days.
Now, usually when we supreme a lemon, we're going to supreme a Meyer lemon because it tastes better. And a lot of times a Meyer lemon has like 2 giant seeds, so you don't have to do quite as much work with it.
So if you're supreming a lemon and you don't get enough sections, you have to go back to the lemon to get what you need.
Just keep supreming. Because it's pretty rare that we'll serve like a whole segment, especially if something intense like a lemon. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll cut it into thirds. So even if we supreme it, we'll come back and we'll cut it into actual thirds. That way it's not randomly just strewn on the plate,
Oh, okay.
right? It's still controlled.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of work, but students, I can't stress this enough. It's absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. Especially when you do like a really cool citrus cocktail, as in a fruit cocktail, right? And you've got like red, yellow, green, and you get like really dark orange, and they're all the same size, but it looks like jewels just tossed around in there. Okay, it's pretty intense. So please, taste some lemon. Just the supreme. It's going to be much, much sweeter than the lemon you're used to. Doesn't mean it's not going to be sour, but it'll be sweeter.
Fresh. Oh, you got Jack. Good luck. You did. Go ahead. Eat it.
No pith.
At all.
None.
That's good.
Okay, I have students all the time. They show it to me, pith all over it. Pith is what sticks in your teeth. Pith is what holds that flavor on your tongue. As intense as that lemon is, it's already gone, right?
It is, yeah.
Right? You're like, oh. Not so bad. Okay? Work on that. Now, how do we process this stuff? Again, a lot of times we don't want any pith on it, so we have to handle it a certain way also. Okay? What we'll do, hold it flat, and this is where you have to have really good knife control. Place your knife on there, and we start cutting them off. Okay? Now this, I can candy. It'll become super, super buttery, really, really soft and tender, but you have to candy it a certain way. For standard candy slices, like when you see it, cocktails and stuff like that, I'm just going to square it off real fast, and then keep going. Okay, we get down, we can start seeing the individual pores in the skin. That's how we start candying just the zest of something, which is how we get tons and tons of flavor. This is going to be like pure orange flavor, okay? And then obviously whatever I candy it with. A lot of times we'll candy it with some kind of alcohol like bourbon and orange is really common. A little bit of rum, but it'll have that extra flavor. So, if you want to experience the difference, please taste some pith, and then I would recommend tasting the skin, but this is what we candy and then coat in chocolate, right? So if you want to experience it, taste, 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 but otherwise, are there any questions? Do we understand how important it really is? I know it seems trivial, it seems like a lot of work, but I promise you, absolutely worth it, okay? You should never serve or eat anything but the flesh of a fruit from now on, right?
Right.
Just think about it. I promise you, if you're at home and you reach for an orange, do yourself a favor, supreme it real fast, squeeze the juice in there, and then eat it, night and day. Totally different. Totally, totally different, okay? I know you're like, I don't really want to. Trust me, it's awesome. Okay, you want to blow people's minds, just a quick, easy little summer salad, right? We've all had fruit salad, and it's disgusting. Because all those flavors just meld together and it just sits in a giant puddle of its own weird juice. I don't know why no one ever fixes that. But start like giving just the flesh of the fruit. And then, even after I supreme these, you see how they're still bleeding a lot? Okay, when you supreme them for real, have like a strainer or something, put your supremes in there and they'll keep bleeding for at least 20 minutes. Right? Now I don't want them to be bone dry, but I want them to let go of all their normal juices. Right? Because if I put this super moist, juicy thing on a plate, sits in the window for a minute and a half, it goes to the table for a minute and a half when it gets there, big old lemon puddle. Okay? Not the end of the world, but it also doesn't show as much refinement as we want. Make sense?
Yes, Chef.
Okay.
So if you put that in a juicer, would that produce more juice?
Wait,
Your,
this or this?
that,
Yeah, absolutely. This will produce juice. But even the way it is now, depending on your juicer, I mean, I could blend this, but this will also pure out all of this will also pull out all of the impurities, right? So just this juice, hand squeeze, it'll be bitter, but if you juice it, we're juicing then all the acids, all the extra stuff, so then it gets extra bitter. Okay, now, remember how I told you about your fresh squeezed orange juice? Does this look anything like what you buy in the grocery store?
no,
Not at all, right?
no.
See how it's still clear? Yeah, big difference.
No trees.
No trees. And right when you puree this, it makes it cloudy. So that's another way we know that this has been fresh squeezed. Okay? Huge, huge difference. Even though I'm clearly squeezing it, I'm not crushing and pulping it all in there. Alright? So, big, big, big difference. Any questions at all? Now, what is this called? It's not a trick question. Juice. If I apply heat to it, what is it called? What's that? Warm juice? It is called jus. J-U-S. As soon as it has been cooked, it is a jus at that point. Okay?
As in roast beef, I do.
It is a roasted beef sauce.
Right.
Okay? If I just put blood in a cup, it would just be blood in a cup. But because it's been roasted and cooked, it is a jus. Alright? So, lemon jus on top of your lemon tart, on top of everything else. Very nice. Okay? Now, why is this truly important? Because even when you start making lemon curd and stuff like that, a lot of times we buy the juice already extracted from the plant. But if we're taking the time to make it special, imagine instead of just throwing, does everybody know what lemon curd is, first of all? It's like lemon pudding, but it's made with lemons, like just lemons. And usually we squeeze the whole thing, we strain it, we just throw it in there, zest and all. Okay? And it's very tart and very sweet, but to make it sweet, we add a ridiculous amount of sugar to it. Okay? I love it. I love the stuff. It should be on every dessert menu because it is clean and fresh and tart and seasonal and whatever. But imagine if we took the time to get just the flesh and use that to make our product, then we would have just a really, really intense, beautiful, clean product, right? It wouldn't be like, ugh, it's hanging out with you, right? Every single piece of citrus today, you're like, that's intense, and then it's gone. Why is that important? That's what keeps them eating, right? When you eat something and then it's gone, you're like, oh, so keep on going. But you eat something and it lingers, you're like, I don't know. Right? Like, yeah, it's heavy, it's starchy. Okay? That's where we start getting back into the astringency of it all. We want them to eat and eat and eat, so make it super clean. They're forced to keep eating to get that flavor back. Make sense? All right. I'll pull up a photo real fast that I'll demonstrate what I'm talking about.